This video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Hey guys, Big Paul here today. I am going to go through a power building program. This one I'm going to go through in detail what a power building program looks like for strength and size, and what our gear protocol, what our diet would potentially be like with this setup. Strap your seatbelts on for this one. It's probably going to be a long one. I'm going to go into detail about it. You guys know that I like high volume training is what I train right now. But for years I trained more like a power builder, not really powerlifting per se, but I was a strong bodybuilder and I trained that way for many years. And just, I made the switch to high volume because I'm almost 50 years old. And I don't think the power building style of training is sustainable into my 50s. So I tried to come up with a better way to train that would be sustainable in my 50s. And I found out that I just respond really well to volume. I've never really messed around with high volume before, high frequency, and I've done really well with it. But that's not to say that I don't like power building. Really, I like lifting heavy. I really do. I really love lifting heavy. I don't know that it's always the most productive way to lift for bodybuilding if you want to promote hypertrophy and be a polished bodybuilder. But at the end of the day, getting into the gym, the most important thing is doing stuff that you love, that you're going to be motivated to do. And I really used to love lifting heavy, and I would get motivated by lifting heavy, and I know a lot of you do. I think some people think I'm poo-pooing over on the HIIT programs that I sent over, but it just studies have shown that they aren't the most optimal way for hypertrophy. It's not to say that you can't grow with HIIT style training and more heavy weights. It's just that most of the recent studies are showing, or at least indicative of, that volume is the primary driver of hypertrophy. That's not to say you're not lifting heavy with volume, but, certainly volume is a factor, an important factor in hypertrophy, maybe the most important. But anyway, I'm off on a rant now. I do like power building. Several guys have asked me to outline a power building program. This is the one I used to run, and I ran for years. It's kind of a light version of what I used to run, but, the principles are the same. But this is kind of how I used to train, and I did for years. Or a long time ago, I actually did DC training. I did that for many years, and then I kind of progressed to this style of training. But anyway, let's dig into it. All right, so first things first, so the highlights of a power building program, what we're looking at here. The primary focus of this is to build strength while increasing size. Really, the theory behind a power building program is the stronger the muscle is, the bigger it's going to be. It's really that simple. We use basic progressive overload principles. We have sets that we're going to run through that are PR sets. We are trying to beat PRs on those sets every week. It's not necessarily adding more weight, but maybe we grind out another rep, do some sort of intensity modifier each week, get a little better and better each week. For example, if I did 135 pounds on bench last week for 6 reps, next workout I want to do it for 7, the following workout I want to do it for 8, then maybe add 5 pounds to it and start that process over again. And over a 6-week block, I may add 10 or 15 pounds to my bench press. So that's kind of the idea behind this. It's an oversimplification, but really that's the high level principle of this. We have heavy PR sets that are for strength. Those are typically in the 5 to 8 rep range. I found those are the most optimal, at least for me, for building strength while pushing some hypertrophy. I know power lifters are going to train in a lower rep range, which may actually be better for strength, but this is kind of the best of the both worlds. And then we add in some more metabolic work for specifically hypertrophy. But powerlifters call it accessory work or whatever. But we're going to do higher rep stuff on some of the secondary exercises, and those are typically in the 12 to 15 rep range, maybe even a little bit higher, maybe even up to 20 reps. We're going to keep a couple reps in reserve on that stuff. None of that is to failure. This is just to get the muscle pumped and flooded full of nutrients. I would say this is a moderate volume, moderate frequency type program. There is a fair amount of volume in here. Now, keep in mind, the more sets you take to failure and the heavier you train, the more recovery you're going to need between workouts. So you can only push the frequency so much. I get guys that come to me that say, well, I want to, train each body part twice a week like this. I found that I just can't recover. And most people can't. There are exceptions. Ronnie Coleman trained really what I would consider a power building style of training, and he trained every body part twice a week. But he's Ronnie Coleman. There's only been one Ronnie Coleman in the history of humanity. So keep in mind, when you're doing heavy compound movements to failure, you need a certain amount of recovery, and there's only so many weeks you can push it before you need a break, and you need to pull back and let your body wash off fatigue, let your body recover. So that's kind of the high level overview of the program. So the split I've always loved a push-pull leg split. I think that is probably the most effective split for getting. It's a good balance of frequency, and you're hitting everything. I know you're not really targeting chest. Targeting, individual body parts like chest, shoulders, biceps on their own day. Maybe you can't get as much detail in, but as you could with a bro split. But my opinion that the bro split that you see a lot of pro bodybuilders run shouldn't be employed until you're close to your genetic potential and you're just polishing things up. Up until then, the biggest problem most people have, it's not that they have a deficient body part, they just need to get bigger. It's really that simple. I get guys reach out to me all the time. I want to focus on this body part. I want to focus on that body part. I'm like, dude, if your arms are lagging behind and you're 165 pounds, if you're 185 pounds, your arms are going to be bigger. It's just that simple. So focus on size until you hit a certain point, and then you can start working on specialization. So the split is push, pull, off, and then we hit legs, and then we have another day off. The reason why I have the day off between the pull workout and the leg workout is because we're doing deadlifts, and I would say you do not want to do deadlifts back to back with squats. That seems like a recipe for fucking your recovery up. So yeah. And you may even need more time off than this. You may even be able to hit everything once a week. But I found that, this is once you're hitting everything once every 5 days. That seems to be sufficient enough time, as long with the caveat here that these secondary isolation exercises you are not taking to failure. So if you're keeping a couple reps in the tank and only doing the PR sets to failure, you should be able to recover before workouts, especially if you're taking gear. If you do this, I have a 20-week block that we're doing. We're doing three mesocycle, I guess. We're doing 3 blocks, 3 6-week blocks with deloads within that. So you'll have 6. Week 7, we'll do a deload. We'll do 13 through week 7 through 13. We'll do another one. Take a deload 14 and then 14 through 20. We'll do another 6-week block, and then when it's time for the last deload, we'll come off our cycle. So our cycle will coincide with this. We'll do a 20-week cycle, and then probably just take a few months and pull back a little bit on the intensity, cruise, let our body come into some state of homeostasis, maybe pull the frequency back a little bit, but keep the weights heavy. You don't necessarily have to drop the intensity of the workouts, but maybe pull the frequency back a little bit and just maintain. But anyway, the way I have it is just a simple push, pull, legs. Sometimes if I want to specialize a little bit more, I'll have a push A and a push B and a pull A and a pull B, and a leg A and a leg B, where maybe one leg workout I'll focus more on hamstrings and adductors, and the next leg I might focus more on quads. Or one push workout or pull workout, I might focus more on rowing movements, whereas the next one I might focus more on vertical pulling movements. All right, so just something to keep in mind, but I'm going to keep it simple with this one. All right, so Details about it. With warm-up sets, people are always like seem to be obsessed with warm-up sets. How many warm-up sets do I need to do? Don't over fucking think it. It's exactly that. It's a warm-up set. You don't want to do warm-ups for the sake of warm-ups. I feel like sometimes people it ends up just being junk volume, and you're accumulating fatigue for no reason. You get no benefit from it. So do as many warm-up sets as you need to be ready to lift your primary set. You shouldn't need the warm-up sets on your secondary exercises. You really shouldn't. Like, if you're doing cable flies, why the fuck do you need to do a warm-up set? If you're doing cable flies with 40 pounds, you shouldn't need a warm-up for that. But if you're working up the deadlifting 6 plates, you definitely don't want to jump right on that. So you're going to work your way up. But so usually the way I would work something heavy like deadlifts, I would use my lighter weights. Like, let's say if I started off with 135 for 8 reps, and then 225 for 6, and then maybe 315 for just like a couple. Then maybe I would do 405 for just a couple, like 1 or 2, just to feel it, to get the neurologically prepared for it, and then I'd pull my heavy set. Same thing with squats or bench, but that's usually how I would do, because I feel like doing further reps on those sub-maximal sets are just wasted energy, in my opinion. But you do want to be prepared to lift your heavy set. You just don't want to jump straight on it. PR sets, I'll have these designated in red. Those are ones that we are going to do to failure. There's only a couple per workout, sometimes one, but those are our progressive overload sets. And the other sets are a couple reps in reserve. 1 to 2 reps in reserve. Don't get too obsessed. People are like, what is 2 RIR feel like? Just use your common sense. Just don't overthink it. Logbook rules. You want to logbook your workouts. It drives me nuts when people don't log your workouts. How do you progress when you're not logging your workouts? You got to write shit down. How do you know what you did last week or the week before, or if you're making any progress? So. As I mentioned earlier, you want to aim for 1 more rep per workout, and within that prescribed rep range. So if you go to 8, 5 to 8 reps, you're going to do 5 list workouts, 6 the next, 7 the following, 8. Maybe your 5th workout you add 5 pounds to the bar. The 2.5. I learned this one from Dante Trudell. The 2.5 pound plates are your best friend. I know my gym doesn't. I don't think they have them. I don't know. Maybe they do, but. I haven't seen them around, but if your gym does not have a pair of change plates or 2.5 pound plates, just buy some and keep them in your gym bag. 2.5 pound plates are your best friend when you're doing progressive overload. Cardio, we want to do enough cardio to just keep our cardiovascular health in check. So hit cardio seems to be the most effective for that. You get the most bang for the time put in. So 3 to 4 times per week of HIIT cardio for like 10 to 12 minutes should be sufficient. All right, day 1 here, we got push. Typically how I would structure my push workouts would be, I would start off with flat bench. And I would work up to a PR set of 5 to 8 reps. And it's just like I described earlier with your PR set. Keep trying to progress it. If I get 5 this week, it's 6 next week, 7 the following. You got to write this shit down in your logbook. You can't progress if you're not writing stuff down in your logbook. And then after I'm done with that, you would do a back off set. Usually pull the weight back by like 60% and just do 10 reps. This is just focused on form, getting some blood, 10 to 12, somewhere around there. Getting some blood in the muscle. This set is not to failure. This is not a progressive overload set, okay? So the sets that are in red here are your PR sets that you're trying to beat every week. Next exercise, I mean, you could do, I have DB dumbbell incline bench. You could do barbell bench if you want it, or you could even do a machine press if you want it, like something like the hammer strength. But, if we're truly doing a power building program, we probably want to stick with dumbbells and barbells for our core compound PR movements. I think that probably makes the most sense. Same deal, the 5 to 8 rep with our PR set, and then the back off set again. And then we'll finish chest off with 4 sets of cable flies. I like cable flies because you're keeping constant tension on the muscle throughout the full range of motion. Whereas like with a dumbbell fly, you're only getting tension on it in the fully stretched portion of the movement. So when you're at the top, you're really not putting any resistance on it. Which to me kind of seems counterproductive. I've never been a huge fan of dumbbell flies other than for the stretch. You could do cable flies, a pec deck machine, something. But remember, these are just metabolic work here. These are just getting a pump, getting nutrients flooded into the muscle, getting blood into the muscle. So 4 sets of, ideally 15 reps, keep a couple reps in reserves. Then we move on to shoulders. We have our PR set for shoulders, shoulder presses. I used to like doing barbell presses to the front. You could use Smith machine if you wanted to. I never can seem to get on the Smith machine at my gym because all the women are on it doing things like butt presses and shit that the machine was not designed for. But I see all kinds of stupid shit. All the dumbest shit in the gym happens on the Smith machine, it seems like. Anyway, so you could do barbell presses, dumbbell presses. You could even use a machine if you want. Once again, I think probably ideal. Same deal to PR set with your back off set. That is not to failure. Then we are going to do 3 sets of lateral raises. Dumbbells are fine. Rear delts with once again, these are not PR sets. Couple reps in reserves. Really focus on the form, getting blood pushed into the muscle. Don't get obsessed with progressing the weights on lateral raises. There's only so much you can do. I mean, what are you going to be doing? Lateral raising the 100-pound dumbbells? I always crack up when I see dudes like slinging around 50-pound dumbbells on lateral raises that are half my size. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, man? I mean, seriously, you're only getting like half the range of motion. So how much of the muscle do you think you're stimulating? Anyway. Some sort of rear delt exercise of your choice. You could do bent lateral raises. You could do reverse pec deck. Whatever you want. Bent over cable laterals. Whatever you want. Same deal. For arms, I know a lot of people like doing heavy work on arms. I mean, you certainly could do some heavy work here, but you've already done a bunch of pressing movement. The heavy pressing that you've done with the bench and with the shoulder presses are really going to, that's to me, that's your heavy work for your triceps. At the end of the workout, we just want to get some blood pumped into them. And I have found, I have a hard time getting my arms to grow, but I found that my arms started growing when I used more high rep work and focused on squeezing the muscle. So I would do, high reps on tricep push downs. The big thing here is with triceps, you want to do some sort of vertical pressing and some sort of horizontal pressing, okay? Or, push downs, you want to push overhead or you want to extend down. So there's two different movements here. So, that you want to get one exercise of each. So something like French presses or push downs, or maybe dips and French presses, some sort of overhead extension, some sort of push down type movements. You could even use an aero grip benches if you want, but we've already done a bunch of bench work and pressing work already. So I think it's probably unnecessary. Okay. So next would be your pull, your back workout. I like to do deadlifts later on in this workout because I found that if you start off with deadlifts first, you've torched your lower back. You're not really going to be that effective at doing rows or pull downs. I just am not. I'm honestly not a huge deadlift fan. I don't think they're that productive for bodybuilding, but I know people love them, and I've done a ton of them in the past. I used to deadlift a lot, but I'm not one of those people that thinks you need to deadlift to have a huge back. I see plenty of dudes that have big backs that don't deadlift. But anyway, I digress. So I would start off with barbell rows. I'm a fan. You could sub out for dumbbell rows, some sort of heavy rowing movement with barbells or dumbbells. So it's either dumbbell rows or barbell rows, I think, are very effective for back thickness, density. We want, so 3 to 4 sets, 10 to 12 reps. Keep the rep. I think people go too heavy sometimes on barbell rows and are really not getting that much out of it. You could do T-bar rows instead of barbell rows if you want, whatever floats your boat. Pull downs, you could do chins as well if you want it, but I like pull downs. I like doing narrow grip pull downs. I know a lot of people think, for some reason that wide grip pull downs make better back width. I've never done wide grip pull downs and I have a very wide back. So I think a lot of it's just genetic and how the muscles are inserted. And I have found with wide grip pull downs that I only feel it in my biceps. So I feel like you get more strength from a narrow grip pull down. So I like doing pull downs, narrow grip. So that for the pulling movement, I like doing my pull down movement for my vertical and then horizontal pulling. So that's what I have. And then we move to the deadlifts. At that point, I think deadlifts are a little more effective for back after you've already worn your back out with these pulling movements first. All right. So, you might not be able to deadlift as much. Put your ego aside. That's fine. But we're going to work our way up to a deadlift, a PR set of 5 to 8 reps. You can do rack pulls if you prefer. None of that bullshit sumo deadlifts. That's stuff for powerlifting and stuff. That has no place in bodybuilding, in my opinion. So conventional deadlifts or rack pulls, I think, are the most effective. And then we'll do a back offset, not to failure. While you got the bar loaded up, you could pull a few weights off of it and do some barbell shrugs, just a couple sets. I like doing shrugs with my back workout. I feel like it's just part of your back. And then same thing with the curls for biceps. I feel like biceps are another body part. People lift way too heavy. I see dudes slinging around 50 and 60 pound dumbbells for curls, and they got 13-inch arms. It just makes no fucking sense to me. So don't do that. So dumbbell curls, cable curls, whatever type of curl floats your boat. I really don't care. Probably in the 15 rep range, not to failure. And then another thing I do a little differently than I think a lot of people don't do is weighted ab exercises. I can't tell you how many people I see step ones. I think people have this fear of doing weighted ab exercises because they're worried about blowing out their waist. But yet when I am at bodybuilding shows, I see so many dudes that have zero ab development. It's wild. They have these huge bodies and no ab development. And I don't think weighted ab exercises would blow out your waist anyway. I think that's from eating like shit. And a lot of times, I think it's heavy deadlifts and squats that end up blowing out your waist to a certain degree. But part of it's food, part of it's genetics, part of it's when your organs are all inflamed. There's a bunch of different factors in here. But anyway, I like a weighted ab exercise, an ab machine. We have a hammer strength ab machine at my gym I really like using, and I think that helps give you a little more ab development, so when you're on stage, your abs pop a bit more. And then finally, we have legs. I do like to start off with squats first, just because they're so taxing. I work up to a 5 to 8 rep PR set. You already know how the PR sets work, and then a back off set of 15 reps. So like when I was doing barbell squats, I might work up to 495 or something for a set of 5 to 8, and then do a back off set with 315 for 15 reps or something like that. Leg press. This is another one that drives me nuts. Everybody wants to set the world record for leg press at the gym, and they have 6-inch range of motion. It absolutely drives me fucking insane. Don't get too focused on the weight on the leg press. Try to make the most out of the least. Actually, this is not where we're doing our progressive overload. So I like doing high and wide leg press after doing squats. So it's more adductor and hamstring focused. You could do low and narrow, which would be more quad focused. It's up to you, but it depends on where you need development. But I have a video up on adductor development and how it really adds a lot of size. I don't think people are necessarily missing quad development. A lot of times I think they're missing adductor and hamstring development. So that's to facilitate that. And then we have leg extensions. This is another exercise that people go way too fucking heavy on. If you can't fully extend and squeeze your legs, you're going too heavy. take the weight that you think you should use and cut it in half on leg extensions. And then really try to focus on squeezing. Get 15 to 20 reps. Really get the blood flowing in there. We want to do some adductor work at the end, usually the good girl, bad girl machine, and maybe some lunges just to get some, to finish the legs off. Or if you don't want to do lunges, you could do like Bulgarian split squats or sissy squats, something like that. And then we move on to hamstrings. Hamstrings don't need a ton of volume. I think we're already working them with these other things too. So they're, squats, leg press, all this other shit's going to be working your hamstrings too. So we just need a little bit of finishing work for the hamstrings. So something like 3 sets of leg curls. Hamstrings are another one. People do way too much weight, not enough reps. Legs seem to respond better to higher volume, higher reps. It's just been my experience. The dudes that grow big legs are doing higher volume, high reps. I see all kinds of guys that can lift, leg press a shit ton, but they don't have big legs. You know who I'm talking about. So leg curls, pick your favorite leg curl machine, 3 sets of 15 reps to 20 reps, and then DB stiff-legged deadlifts to finish them off after. I like doing my DB stiff-legged deadlifts after my leg curls to sort of pre-exhaust them. So I have a hard time sometimes feeling DB stiff-legged deadlifts in my hamstrings, but if I pre-exhaust them with the leg curls first, I really can feel them then. And then we finish off the calf raises. Another one people like to set the world record on. I was at the gym the other night and I saw a dude that had about 13-inch calves that had every goddamn plate in the gym loaded on the seated calf raise. And I'm just sitting there. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, man? And they get their 3-inch range of motion. Full range of motion on calves. I'm going to do a video up on how to do calf raises properly. I think like nobody knows how to do calf raises properly. That's why you don't see many people with calf development. Full range of motion, full stretch, top to bottom, and that usually means lighter weight. Okay, so those are the 3 days we have push-pull legs, then you repeat. For your steroids, for your cycle here, I like to run a 20-week cycle with this, so this would coincide so you could get your 3 6-week blocks in here. You should put on some good size for this. And with a one week deload, and it fits perfectly within a 20-week cycle. Stick with just basic stuff. You don't need complicated stuff. People overcomplicate the cycle. Test and then choose your favorite anabolic. I would say the 3 to choose from are nandrolone, equipoise, or primobolan. Just choose one of them, and add that to it. And on your last 6-week block, if you want to run orals pre-workout, something like Anadrol, you certainly could do that on your last 6-week block. I don't like orals. You guys know how I feel about orals. They fuck my stomach up. If you can't eat, you can't grow. If you feel sick, you can't grow. So that's what I have found. And I like to, I have run orals pre-workout in the past, so that way it gives you a break and your liver's not taxed all the time. So if you're only working out, 4 or 5 days a week, you're only taking orals 4 or 5 days a week pre-workout. So you are giving your liver a break. So just make sure you have some liver support. Only on the last 6-week block. You should only need it then. GH is optional. If you're older lifter, GH can be beneficial for your joint and connective tissue health. You might not need it if you're in your 20s. Usually for young guys, I like to just save it for contest prep. Insulin's also another option that we can toss in there as well, but it's not a requirement. The dose is depending on your weight and your experience. It's, dose of gear is very much like food. If you're 160 pounds and you came out of the gate eating 6,000 calories, you're just going to get fat. It's the same thing, if you're 165 pounds and you took 2.5 grams of gear, it's not going to do anything for you. It just probably make you sick. You're not really going to get any benefit out of it. And how much are you going to take when you're 240? So I like to incrementally raise doses as you get bigger. Use what you need to grow, no more. It's that simple. And I like escalating doses. So the 20-week cycle, we'd probably start lower, like the first 6-week block. You don't need a whole bunch. For somebody like my size, I would probably start off with something like 500 tests. 300 equipoise or something, for me, for my first 6-week block. Then the second 6-week block, maybe I would take it up to 650 test and 450 equipoise. And then the last block, maybe I would take it up to 750 test, 600 equipoise, and maybe throw in like 50 milligrams of Anavar pre-workout. So you have these escalating doses as you go, because the further you progress, you're going to need probably more to get over the hump. The whole front-loading thing to me is just stupid. All it does is just give you a bunch of unnecessary side effects, and you really get no additional benefit out of it. Really, it should be exact opposite. When you're at the beginning of a cycle, a little bit's going to go a long way. It's when you get further in the cycle that you need more to get you over the hump. All right, diet. I mean, this is not rocket science. Eat in the surplus. If you're trying to grow, if you're trying to get stronger, you got to eat in the surplus. I see two types of guys when I work with, when I'm coaching: the guys that don't eat enough, and the guys that eat like fat asses. So I would say eat in the surplus. I like high carb diets. 1 to 1.2 grams of protein per pound. I'm not a huge protein guy. You don't need a ton of protein. Keep the fats lower. Keep your meats to low fat sources. Get all your fats from EFAs, things like olive oil, nuts, avocados, shit like that. And then pull back your calories a bit on your off days. Pull back your carbs a bit on your off days. You don't need the extra carbs when you're not lifting. You're not expending energy. Carbs are just energy. And that's really it. It's really that simple. That's it in a nutshell. I think this is a pretty simple, straightforward program. If I were probably 22, 23 again, and had, my whole life in front of me, and I wanted to progress my strength and size, is probably the way I would train. Anyway, hopefully you found this helpful. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you have questions, feel free to ask them in the comments section. If you want to get in contact with me about coaching, you can go to anabolicbodybuilding.com and see the pricing there. You can shoot me an email at bigp3rd@gmail.com. All that information's in the video description below. I also do one-off consultations. It just blows my mind that dudes will go out and spend all this money on gear and supplements and food, have no idea what they are doing, but they won't spend $100 on a consultation. Makes no fucking sense to make sure you're doing shit right. So invest in yourself. I always have a coach. Even where I'm at, I pay for quality knowledge. That's how you get better. All right, guys. Take care. Hopefully you find this helpful.